Hello, everybody. Ooh, this actually does work. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. I think I see a lot of familiar faces. I was here last year, gave a presentation around conscious leadership, stakeholder balance in business, and I'm super excited to be on this discussion group with these two fine, can't say ladies and gentlemen because there's only one of each, this fine lady and this fine gentleman. 2 seconds of quick background to set expectation. We're going to have a 30-minute chat. For those of you that want us to go deep into how we're going to become a Terminator world, we're not going to cover any of that at all. There's none of the dystopian stuff. We're going to keep this very positive because we do think there is a lot of positivity coming out of this world. Quick background on myself and these two fine folks. So my name is Victor. I was running Evite for a long time. I have recently taken over as the CEO of what I call a responsible AI company. So we are in stealth mode still, but at a high level, we are going to bring video communication into business in an asynchronous way, so not real time, but back and forth. And we're going to do that in a way that is actually responsible, and there's a large AI component to that. Brett has been involved with conscious capitalism for many, many years, sat on the board for years, six-time CEO and founder, I want to say. Currently CEO and founder of a great company called data.world, and probably one of the most conscious leaders. His current organization is a B corporation, one of the very few. Has published his philosophies on leadership in a book, which you guys should all check out. And he introduced me to conscious capitalism, actually, two years ago. So thank you for that.
You bet.
Right.
I'd forgotten about that. That's great.
And Jana and I, we've known each other for, God, we were just talking, maybe 20 years. We worked together at Intuit. She is a deep expert in AI because the company that she currently runs, Naralogics, is 10 years now?
Just about.
Just about 10 years. So she's actually seen the entire arc of this space in terms of how AI has evolved. It's not yes, it's been a year since ChatGPT came out, but there's 9 more years of deep work that's built on to a large degree. So I think first off, I'll just do a quick handoff and let you guys talk a little bit about why the hell did you come join me on stage, and why are you excited to talk about this topic?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a real honor to be here. This community has meant a lot to me over the years. I always take a few ideas that I act on, as I was telling Jana's first time here. For me, this is the most exciting time in the history of tech. And I know that sounds audacious, but I really mean it. Like, what tech entrepreneurs have in common is we grew up reading sci-fi, and some of that sci-fi was dystopian, and we were like, we want to create a better version of that. And this is the stuff that we were dreaming about, and it's lifting productivity at an astronomical rate. We haven't seen a productivity lift of this magnitude in this short of a period of time, maybe ever. You'd have to go back to maybe the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And it needs to be done with a lot of intentionality. That kind of goes without saying. I came out with a LinkedIn post in preparation for this. One of the great leaders in this space is Mustafa Suleyman, who was the co-founder of DeepMind, who just came out with a book called The Coming Wave. And they are also a proud B Corp, and they raised $1.3 billion. He co-founded that with Reid Hoffman. Company is called Inflection AI. Their product is called Pi, P-I. You can find it at pi.ai. And they're building it with a lot of intentionality. And we are too at data.world, and it's just, it's an incredibly exciting time. It seems in some ways that we were always destined for this, to really unleash the best of humanity at this type of scale. And I'm extremely positive on it. I'm not actually dystopian about it in the slightest, because I really believe that we will build it, and the world collectively will build it. Sam Altman and others will build it with a lot of intentionality and care.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Victor, for bringing us together. And Brett, we've crossed a few times.
Yeah.
I've never had a chance to engage, and this is just such a great community. Thank you all for welcoming me this morning. It's been fantastic. My journey with AI started over 30 years ago. In 1990, I went out to Los Alamos to the National Laboratory and started using AI as a tool. I had a friend, I was a mathematician, I was doing some computational chemistry work, and I had a friend that was at the Center for Nonlinear Studies, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, for some of that work, you should use neural nets." And I'm like, "What's a neural net? I don't even know what that is." And so that's when my journey began. And I've always used AI as a tool, which is what I think is really important for all of us to know, is it's a tool, it's not magic. It's a tool that you can learn about too. It's not inaccessible. It's actually pretty basic. It is an advanced form of statistics, a little bit harder to understand sometimes. But what I've focused on most of my career, even as I've used it as a tool, I've worked for search engines, so I know a lot about NLP. I've worked in the trucking industry and optimization software. What's really come out in my career has been, but why? Why? What is it the machine is seeing in the data that we as humans are missing or not quite understanding? And so that's why I got excited about Naralogics. When they came to me, I told the recruiter, totally not interested. I am not going to an AI company. And there's too much hype. By the way, I said there was too much hype back in 2014. I was like, too much is going on there. But what I got excited about is the team was fully focused on explainability and really understanding what the machine is seeing so that you can not only understand the answer, but understand where you need to tune it, understand which data is having what impact, right? Which data might be missing. So when you have your subject matter experts that are engaging with this, them saying, oh, now I see why the machine sees that, but they're missing this data over here. They're not understanding something that I learned in school. Or one of the things that often happens is you have a lot of volume of data in one place and a very small volume in the other place, but that small volume of data is actually really important. We call it tyranny of popularity, right? There's a whole bunch over here that's saying something, and this little bit needs to be amped up a little more and say, no, 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 but this is the core piece that you're missing over here, machine. And that's what explainability gives you, and really understanding, getting you to know the data and know what's actually going on is one of the reasons why I'm here. When Victor asked, I was like, this is a group that will get this. You know, you're understanding, you're thinking more about the data, you're thinking more about the algorithms, you're trying to understand what should we do as business people with this crazy technology thing, rather than saying, oh, the tech people will figure it out. We need you to engage and really put your thoughtfulness into how we're using AI. As a community, as an industry, AI needs you.
Yeah, that's great. Now we're going to go into the deep math. No, I'm just kidding. We're not. So no, you said you threw out something that I think is so important, which is this is just a tool at the end of the day, right? We have built it and we control it. And so I think all of us were involved in when the internet first came out. I think some of you out there were there when that happened. To me, that was a powerful moment, because if you abstract out what happened when the internet came, it was in some ways a very simple thing, right? It was the first time the entire world was on the same unified network. It's as simple as that. Right, and then what are the societal repercussions of that? You can take all of the science and the chaos of AI, and in some ways, one way I like to think about it is, what's this doing at the highest level? It is going to enable intelligence as a service in the society, as a tool, right? And just one tactical example of that, the product we're building, we're recording videos, and we need to figure out what that person's saying. 12 months ago, it would have been impossible. Today, what do? We call intelligence as a service. We stick our video into it and we say, hey, intelligence as a service, tell us what this person's saying. Summarize it, right? And it can do that. Like, that was impossible before. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on, like, how do you think about this in your businesses and all the businesses that you guys serve, and some of the implications that maybe we're not thinking about?
I mean, a couple of things. So one is, there's three big problems with this, and over 50% of Fortune 500 CEOs right now are suppressing their AI efforts. Like, that's the statistics right now. One is what are called hallucinations. These are statistical engines, as Jana was saying, and you have to be able to trust the data that you're using to operate the business. The data are the facts of the business. So you have to solve that problem. That's a problem we're solving at data.world, where our knowledge graph technology speaks to the large language model and tells it, no, you're wrong, here are the facts, and until it gets it right. The second is explainability. Like, how is it actually coming up with these answers? And there's a lot of work being done right now. The weird place we're at is that a lot of these companies that have produced these cannot explain how they're coming up with answers, but that's being worked on. And you got to remember, we're at the earliest phase here. We're not even 1 year anniversary of ChatGPT. That happens on November 30th. Okay, so this is how fast this is moving. Explainability, we're solving. And then the final is security. There are a lot of data laws. There are a lot of things that you have to regulate, which is, how do you make sure that this is secure, that someone's not going to unleash the data of the corporation to OpenAI that's then going to train their model on it, or release PII, personally identifiable information, et cetera. We're solving that problem. So those are the three things that are holding this back. The very positive thing is that there are now studies in almost every field, from financial advisory to, I just saw a study this morning on radiology, to, of course, writing. The first study that was done back at the beginning of this year was that copywriting got 30 to 50% more efficient in the first month of use. Okay, that's a dramatic increase. What I'm seeing, I mean, we're really leading the way by example in our company, by making sure that legal's involved very early, and that we run lots and lots of experiments about how to increase productivity. And I'll just give you one example of how kind of stunning this is, and do it in a way where we're not training this alien intelligence. I almost hate to call it intelligence, because it's not sentient. It's actually not actually intelligent. It's a statistical engine, but it appears to be. It fakes intelligence really well. One of the experiments we ran initially was, let's take our 5 best engineers. Engineers are the most expensive people in our company outside of the top performing salespeople. Take our top 5 best engineers, and let's give them this and see how fast they improve. They lifted productivity by 30% as measured by CodeShip. Our best engineer, one of our top 2, he recently produced 15,000 lines of code in 2 months. Before this, he produced 10,000 lines of code in a year. Okay, so you may think, your mind might immediately go to, oh my gosh, there go all the jobs. The reality, in my opinion, is you're going to see a massive boom in startups, because the barrier to starting a company is not a lack of creativity. It's a lack of know-how of, like, well, I don't know how to program. Our son, Levi, who just turned 14, spent 24 hours recently creating an interface on top of OpenAI that's a glowing green orb that follows you around on the computer screen, and you can interact with it and ask it questions, ask it to write code, ask it to explain something to you. So it's kind of like a virtual buddy. He created that in 24 hours in Python. He doesn't even know how to program in Python. 24 hours, right? It was 650 prompts. That's something that I don't even know how long that would have taken him to create. He's been programming since he was 4, but he's like really fast now, right? I mean, it's incredible. So I would highly, highly, highly encourage everybody in this room that leads a company to get your employees on board with using this, measure productivity lift, get them sharing examples with each other, get legal involved quickly. There's a lot of ways these things try to trick you into sharing data, which is unfortunate. Like especially OpenAI will trick you a lot of times where you're actually sharing data even though you don't intend to. So There's lots of YouTube videos, stuff like that you can watch on that. Not that hard, but you just need to navigate that well. So create guidelines, but you cannot afford not to miss out, you cannot afford to miss out on the biggest productivity boom since the Industrial Revolution. You just can't. I mean, like, you have to make your company more efficient. That is also conscious. And you have to give people the tools they need to do their jobs more efficiently, because it's actually inhumane not to. It's inhumane to not give someone the massive productivity lift that they could do. And it's inhumane to not set them up well for whatever their next job is going to be, because they are going to be completely obsolete if they leave your company and they do not know how to do this. They do not know how to program with it, copyright with it, do presentations with it, et cetera. And they could try to quickly catch up, but there is a bit of a race going on, not unlike the race that we've all been in life, whether it's going to Rand Stegan's Academy and trying to become a better leader, or going and reading a bunch of books, or going to school, or whatever it is. Like, we're all trying to build a better version of ourselves, and this with intentionality can build the best version of yourself.
Yeah, it's a crazy thought if you think about it. So some of these examples, if you don't let the company use the AI, it is this incredible disservice, right? So I forget which of the AI CEOs basically said, "Hey, this is like having 1,000 college grads in your pocket," and I think that is completely off the mark, right? It's not 1,000 college grads. That's maybe today, right? What we're moving into a world where we have, right, intelligence as an entity, as a service, at your beck and call. And so imagine not letting your employees use it or access it. It would be kind of insane when everybody else in the world is going to have not just 1,000 grad students, but every single knowledge professional on the planet at an incredible high level of proficiency available either to access or to plug into technology.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think one of the important parts, I love the examples that were given, is really understanding where the productivity is and where that may harm someone else's productivity too. So if you're thinking about engineering, we may get something that works, but it may not work exactly the way it should within this context. And so you may be pushing the problem to QA, for example, or DevOps, for example. And so really understanding which pieces of productivity are good. And I'll give you an example. One of our customers, financial services customer, had built some prediction algorithms for when their client services people should engage with their customers. And that was great, but then they were just calling them and saying, "Hey, how's it going?" And what ended up happening is those people then started having to research more, like, what could it be? Why is the algorithm saying this? I don't know. And so we got involved in that project, and we have explainability. And then the productivity really increased because those people did call, but they knew why they were calling. They knew why that this customer, what was it about the customer patterns that made them look like they were starting to disengage with their customers. Now, there's another example. We work in healthcare too. And first project, we were brought in during COVID because office visits, this is fully integrated healthcare system. Office visits, of course, were at a premium then. And they were looking to optimize who got those office visits for the right end outcome for the patient. And that was great. We implemented it, went into production, performed very well. They were excited about it. But the digital team was a little disappointed because while they got pats on the back from management, the doctors were just kind of like, what have you done for me? And so they were sad about that because their doctors are really their colleagues, and said the care team, I shouldn't say doctors, the whole care team, doctors and nurses and the other clinical team. And so they went and asked them, what's your biggest problem that you're having? And the doctors and care team said, actually it's triaging, because now I'm getting so many more emails coming in. And now I have all these emails to answer. And so we went in and we did a triage on the email, and it was really cool. They had kind of said, hey, put them in these buckets and all this stuff. And what we discovered, and this was an impossible thing before, is they had kind of given us buckets to put. So it was a classification problem. And what we did is we found some strange classifications that at first we thought were bugs. And I'll give you an example. We had classified some things that were about some mouth problems as urinary tract problems. And we thought it was a bug. Well, it turns out if you have an infection in your mouth, guess where it goes? Right into your urinary tract. And so the machine saw that, and a human never would have been trained that way. But the machine saw the pattern of, oh, if you have a mouth problem, it's probably going to lead to this. And we actually, because the machine saw a pattern that a human never would have been trained that way, because we categorize things in a different way, we actually all learned from that. And we have a bunch of different examples like that, where the machine saw something that we all thought was wrong at first, and we researched it, and it turns out it was right. And so that's where we have power that we wouldn't have been able to do that before, because we wouldn't have trained people, or it would have taken too long to train them on all of those little intricate patterns that you see.
Yeah.
And there was huge productivity, and the doctors were like, yes, this is what I need. And so, sorry, I keep going to doctors because it's a doctor panel that approves all of this, but it's really about the care team that had a huge jump in productivity because we let the machine do something. We didn't make it stay within those boundaries of what we did before. We allowed it to learn more.
Yeah, this idea of productivity. So in a simple world, you can think, the AI is going to ripple through business and have, in a crude sense, 3 huge impact spheres, right? One, it's going to make your company wickedly more efficient, excuse me, in the way that Brett described. You're going to be able to build things way faster and way cheaper, right, in terms of output. But something that you said in some ways is the most exciting, which is we are going to be able to build things now that were impossible, like literally impossible. So no, I'd love to, Brett, you see a gazillion companies coming through. I'd love to also hear any examples have you seen? Like, what have you seen where you're like, holy cow, I wouldn't have even thought of that business or that product, right, a year ago, but this is the kind of thing that's happening now in the society and for the...
Well, the biggest theme in the data world, kind of pun intended, I guess, is this whole dream of chatting with your data. So if you ever watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, Captain Picard could just call up to the computer and the computer would answer any question. The only way you get to that world is well-structured data. And the ultimate dream of business intelligence, since the beginning of business intelligence, is chat with your data. It's been highly inefficient to date, but where we're racing along and where other companies are racing along is that dream of basically just being able to ask the system, in this case data.world, hey, my sales in the Northeast went down last quarter. Could you diagnose why they did and compare it to all the other regions? And within seconds, it comes back with the queries it's run, shows you the explainability of how it got there, shows you the graphs you want connected with Tableau or Microsoft Power BI or whatever you use. And that's where this is going very quickly. And then you ask a follow-up question, another follow-up question, et cetera. And some of it will be with governed data. And I'll say, well, I've got the answer, but you need to ask Brian Jacob, in this case, our CTO at data.world, to give you access. Press here to send a request. And then there is a wait time, because Brian's a human, needs to get back to you. So yes, you have access to that data. So that's kind of where it's going. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been really fascinating for me to see our customers do. One of our customers, Power Digital, we were just on stage with them last week at the Gartner IT Symposium. They built an entire system around data.world for essentially chat with your data for their over 400 customers. And it's a whole new revenue line for them. I mean, it's a whole new high margin revenue line for them and for us too. So that's super exciting. There will be lots of applications built on this. I will say that the #1 person you can follow on LinkedIn is Ethan Mollick. Ethan Mollick is who Reid Hoffman the co-founder of Inflection AI and the co-founder of LinkedIn, said that it's the #1 person he follows to learn from. He's a Wharton professor who is approaching Adam Grant type popularity, if you know who Adam Grant is, and specifically on large language models. And every day he's sharing 5 to 7 examples that'll blow your mind. It will literally just blow your mind and give you some creative inspiration. So that's the person really to follow, the person that I follow. I write about him a lot. He just joined our advisory board, I'm proud to say.
Oh, excellent.
Which is awesome. That just happened a week ago.
Excellent.
But he is truly amazing, and will give you lots of inspiration. He's consulting a lot with these Fortune 500 companies, and he was my source. Yesterday, he shared the data around how 50% of Fortune 500 CEOs, a little bit over that, are suppressing AI efforts. And what's happening is shadow AI. It's like people are using it anyways. They're like, forget you. Like, I'm still going to use this like to increase my productivity. I'm a moron if I don't. And you don't want that. Like, you actually want to create an inclusive, conscious community of employees that will collaborate and share the examples of what they're doing so that everybody learns from each other, but again, does it in a legally set up way, because they may make mistakes. If they're doing the shadow AI, that's not good, because they literally may expose like some of your most valuable company IP and ruin things like patents and stuff like that. So bringing that, I'm not trying to fearmonger you, I'm just saying that bringing them in a very conscious, intentional way is important, because they're not gonna wait for you. It'd be like the idiocy of many colleges when the digital calculator was created, banned digital calculators for around a decade. I'm not kidding you, because they thought now math would be ruined because nobody would do it by hand anymore. And instead, what happened is math assignments got much more ambitious. And that's what's happening. Like, if you were in Ethan Mollick's entrepreneurship class, his assignments are so ambitious that literally it would take you 2 to 3 months to complete without AI, but he gives you a week to do it with AI. They're just insanely ambitious, you know?
No, it's a great tip to follow. What, Jana, from your perspective, you got a room of CEOs, high-level executives. What golden nugget or tip would you give them to say, hey, like you should absolutely be doing X, or you should not be doing X? Like, what little takeaway would you want to give?
One thing that I'd say, and it's because of that tyranny of popularity that I brought up before, LLM, the large language models, are getting so much press right now. Don't get carried away with that. There's not one form of AI. When I started out at Los Alamos, I mentioned I started with neural nets. I actually switched to genetic algorithms because I was looking for more of that explainability. And with genetic algorithms, they give you more, just like our DNA, when things cross and combine and mutate, you can trace that and understand better. So I would look at and really understand, is an LLM the right tool for me? A quick example, some folks were looking at how to detect murder hornets and for going into beehives, and they were using visual detection. And they had an expert in murder hornets come out and evaluate what they were doing. They were doing pretty well. It's like 85%. That was a good rate. And he said, oh, this is interesting, and that's really cool, but you know what? Murder hornets have a specific sound when they fly. And why don't you see if you could detect the audio? And it skyrocketed their success rate and allowed them to detect earlier because they could be further out with the audio. 2 very different algorithms, right? And a much better result. So you may be getting some improvements with something like an LLM, but there may be another algorithm that's actually a better fit for your problem. So start thinking of it more as an orchestra, that there's a bunch of different pieces to make what you're looking to do actually perform better. So most of what we do are very collaborative works. It's not just our system. I'm usually because I'm in high-end decision making, I'm usually in there with several different AI tools and adding to that. And so think of it more that way rather than, oh, I have to put all my eggs in this one basket, or try this, and make sure that your team's not just going with one tool, but they're really thinking about and evaluating and understanding why this is the right one for that situation.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. That's a great one. I think the one ask I would give everybody is, to the extent that you're incorporating AI into your businesses and you have large scale impact, and it was kind of in the queue up to this whole session. The second order impacts of some of these systems are going to be even harder to predict and understand. And so as responsible leaders, like no one else is going to be doing, people are just struggling to figure out what the hell should I be doing, period, not, and what are the downstream ripples of that. So my message would just be absolutely keep that filter in your head of, yes, my business impact I'm in charge of, but what are those second order effects? And how do I get on top of those proactively? That would be my takeaway in the last second.
Last second.
Excellent.
You nailed it.
No, thank you guys.
Good job.
Thanks so much for the chat.